Hi, everybody. How's it going? This is Eden Maybon of Light Cycle Astrology.com. Welcome back to the channel, friends. Today, we are getting into a grand trine that forms in the sky this week between Venus, the Moon, and Neptune, beginning on May 30th and going until June the 5th. So we'll take a look at the timing of this and throw in some archetypal themes to watch for. Before we get into it, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit notifications so you don't miss any videos. Drop me some comments in the comment section, and you can always go to my website, lightcycleastrology.com, if you ever want to get a reading from me. Okay, we've got lots to talk about, so we're going to pull up the real-time clock and take a look at the timing of this. One thing to note is that I do have my real-time clock set to Eastern Standard Time. So this is a little bit different because we don't see the planets moving into an alignment at the exact same time with grand trines. It takes a few days here. The first thing that moves into place is Venus begins applying to trine Neptune on Tuesday, May the 30th at 4:06 p.m. So this is the first part of the grand trine that clicks into place. And one important thing to note is that Venus changes moods every 2 days in Cancer. And we're going to get to this a little bit later about what that means. But as the beginning of the trine forms, the moon itself is in Libra, and it has mutual reception to Venus. So in other words, the moon is in Venus's temple and Venus is in the moon's temple. And that's important to remember for later on. Now, what changes in terms of mood a little bit here is the next day, as we get to May the 31st, the moon will enter the sign of Scorpio and enter the sign of her depression. So that changes the mood a little bit. And then as we roll the clock forward, we're going to get to Friday, which is the actual time that all three planets perfect in alignment with one another. So this is coming June the 2nd. We're going to see the exact alignment perfected out. And then from this point forward, it only takes a little while for the moon to move into Sagittarius, breaking apart that alignment the next day. And then as we roll on to the 5th, we're going to get Venus entering the sign of Leo. And that breaks completely the rest of the grand trine. So that's the timing of it. Now let's get into some themes to watch for. I have a few notes that I wanted to read here about this. So this is part of the symbolism of how the planets are moving is this aspect starts out in a spirit of fairness, pleasantness, peaceful resolution, soothing, that is rooted in a hopeful transition on the horizon, flavored by optimism, imagination, creativity, ideals, and dreams. So this is the Neptune in Jupiter's sign of Pisces, Venus in the moon's temple, and as this energy starts out, we have the moon in Libra. So you get that spirit of fairness, you get the pleasantness of Venus in Cancer, but you get the hopeful, optimistic, kind of boundaryless, horizontal view that Neptune has in the sign of Pisces here as well. So we pull in those dreams and all that creative energy, and that's how this all starts out. Now, then the moon enters Scorpio, and this becomes an odd mixture of excitement, energy, chaos, and perhaps desperation. So one thing that I didn't mention before that we're going to talk about on Wednesday is the conjunction between Mercury and Uranus in Taurus. And Venus is hosting that conjunction between these two planets. So you're going to pull in even more energy here that has to do with excitement or chaos or just wild card energy. And when the moon enters Scorpio, the moon might be feeling a little bit of that desperate irritation, angry or hostile, defensive, maybe just grumpy or in a bad mood, maybe suffering through some kind of misfortune or something like that. So the mood changes as the grand trine is getting closer and closer to perfecting here. As the grand trine forms, all this exciting, hopeful, ambitious desires and fantasies get tempered by the intense or difficult feelings by the moon, conflict resolution perhaps, blowing off steam perhaps, irritation, loss, or trouble enter the mix. So for the moment, from Venus's perspective in Cancer, The moon being the dispositor of Venus and providing resources back to Venus, the moon not being in the greatest of positions herself. These are the themes that begin to enter in here. So, theme number one is going to be dark, erotic, fantasy love, or dream life. So, of course, you get the fantasy and the imagination, the creativity, all that sexual energy, but then enter the moon in Scorpio, who pulls in that really dark, mysterious, edgy, maybe conflictual or combative kind of energy. And you get the sense that there is a little bit of this mysterious, edgy darkness that might be macabre or underworldly that pulls into the fantasy realm. Theme number two is getting in one last time that seems on the edge of change. So for this theme, I actually have to pull up the real-time clock one more time and show you one more piece of the puzzle here. So let me just go back to June the 2nd, when the Grand Trine is still in effect here in the chart. So take a look at how Venus is at 27 degrees of Cancer, about ready to enter Leo. The same thing, of course, for Neptune, and the same thing, of course, for the moon. All three planets are about to ingress into different signs. Now, one thing that is really fascinating is that Venus is in the moon's temple, and the moon, of course, is a nighttime or nocturnal planet, right? The moon is the sect light of the night or nocturnal signs. And then when you think about Leo being the domicile of the sun, and the sun, of course, is the sect light for the daytime or diurnal planets, you get the sense or the symbolism here that Venus is on the verge of a dawning. She's about ready to leave the night and enter the day. So one thing that we see as a theme, just in general, between all three planets are ready to enter daytime signs, right? Venus is ready to enter a daytime sign. The moon is ready to enter a daytime sign. Neptune will be entering Aries, and this is not only a daytime sign, but this is the exaltation of the sun, and this is the time of year where we enter the next 6 months of light overcoming darkness. So you get the sense that there is this very 3 a.m., 4 a.m., kind of right before dawn. Maybe there's a little bit of light beginning to emerge, that all three planets are on the horizon or sitting on the precipice of. Not to mention that Neptune as a symbol itself does have that quality of also representing a very similar kind of archetype, where Neptune being very far out in the vast expanse of space and having that dreamy quality, Neptune has this view of the eternal beyond and definitely represents horizons that don't seem to have any end to them. So you definitely get this very fantasy-like quality of energy that is speaking to things entering a new daytime or dawning, and they don't have a end in sight. Like there's something that's coming that is really eternal or vast. That's pretty interesting, I think. So that gets into this concept of, this is the image that I had in my mind. I had that story. Maybe this is because I have a newborn, but my partner says to me the other day, she says, we're going to have to trade in the Jeep if we have another kid. And I said, I was like, no, not the Jeep, right? And she says, yeah, we're going to have to get a van or something. So this is a little bit like that. Could this be, like, metaphorically speaking, the last time that you get to get in the fun car and drive around and enjoy that before there is something that is changing or shifting into a new time? So you get the sense that there is kind of on the verge of enjoying something one last time, or maybe not the exact last time, but things are shifting, and this may change what we enjoy or what kind of dreams we imagine for ourselves. So that is theme number two. Okay, theme number three is ecstatic overdose or ecstasy overdose, bright lights and intense shadows. I mean this in almost a literal sense, where I sort of wonder if you could just overdose from ecstasy with this transit. And in a literal sense, this could be Hopefully not, but there could be a danger of taking too much drugs or drinking too much or getting in an accident, especially with the moon in Scorpio here. So you have to be really, really careful with this energy because it's so out there. You just are just melting into the club lights, the beautiful brightness and artistic qualities of all the colors coming together and this intense shadows that's coming in with the moon in Scorpio. And it's almost like that siren song that's just going to pull you into that underworld Neptunian realm that is quite treacherous. So you do want to be careful of just, I guess, getting into too deep of waters with this one. Theme number 4 is passion just before dawn. So, of course, now that we were talking about theme number 2, and you see how the planets are entering these daytime signs, you get that there is this very sexual, creative kind of energy. Of course, it doesn't have to be sexual, but there's just a lot of creative juice going through the pipes at this time. You know, you have Neptune in Jupiter's sign. Jupiter was said to be a symbol for sperm. Neptune, of course, is connected to water, so that's very fertile. You have, of course, Venus, a planet of creativity and sexuality. And then, of course, you have the moon in Scorpio pulling all three planets together with that kind of Marsy, phallic, edgy, dark lust. So this one just almost speaks for itself. Passion just before dawn, right? A very fertile and creative time. So if you are trying for a bigger family, this could be a good time to do that. Or if you are trying not to have a bigger family, this might be a time where you want to watch out for that as well. Okay, theme number 6 is the need to nurture someone close to you going through something difficult. That's because of the moon in Scorpio in fall or depression in this sign. So it makes me wonder if Venus in Cancer, being in a very nurturing, mothering sign, doesn't want to protect or nurture somebody that might be falling on hard times, or this might be you. But there is a sense with this that you wonder if part of the dream becomes a little bit of a convoluted nightmare, and it takes us coming together and helping each other out and nurturing and being soft and gentle. There's a little bit of that energy of maybe like Neptune sacrificing, Venus nurturing, and the moon being in Mars's temple, needing some love and support with this. Okay, theme number 7 is idealizing the bad boy. Now, I actually say bad boy, but this could be for both. This could be idealizing the bad boy or idealizing the bad girl. This is like you imagine the perfect partner or the perfect love or the perfect life or the perfect job or something like this. And there's an edginess to it. So it's like, yeah, that job that's kind of dangerous and exciting, that's what I want. Or, oh, that guy in the corner that's so mysterious and looks like he would be kind of dangerous and a lot of fun. That's what I want. So there's kind of this idealization, but there's a little bit of that edgy, dark, bad boy kind of sense that a lot of times people can fall into the trap of because it's just so exciting and enticing, right? Okay, theme number 8 is a mixture of good fortune and loss of fortune. So in the ancient world, the ancient astrologers classified Venus as a planet representing good fortune, and they classified the moon as a planet that represented the constant fluctuation of fortune. The fact that life is made up of various moments where we have highs and lows. And because they saw the moon's face constantly changing, you know, it goes from the crescent to the half to the full and then back down again. So they placed the moon in the sign of Scorpio at a time of year where things are dying. We're entering the dark half of the year. It's going to become cold and difficult to survive. So it made sense that this planet that represents the changing, constant highs and lows of fortune would be naturally placed in the low of fortune at the time of year where there's a lot of darkness and cold and it's difficult to survive. We definitely see the potential, even though this is a really fast transit, the moon is in and out in 2 days. So this isn't the end of world bad fortune, but this could be a time definitely where we get Venus representing something that is kind of good or fortunate, and we get the moon representing things that might be difficult, challenging, or falling on hard times. Okay, and theme number 9 is going to be changing fantasies changing beauty, love, women, art, decoration, style, dream life, or ideals, right? So this could be a time where we're on the verge of some kind of changing fantasy, changing something about our appearance or what we find beautiful. We might be having a change of love within ourselves or for other people. There may be a connection to women just in general, like cousins or friends or daughters or, of course, sisters. And then art. Could this be a time where we're just interested in nostalgic music from the past or kind of art that connects us with something a little bit edgy or dark and mysterious and fantasy-like? And this could be simply a time where we want to decorate, change our style, or this could be broader where we have some kind of existential change in what we dream about for our lives or some kind of ideal that we want for ourselves. Okay, so now let's get into theme words, songs, and movies. So the theme word that I picked out to sort of embody the essence of the overall energy of the Grand Trine is nostalgia. I remember one time I had a friend ask me, he said, "Did you know that the word nostalgia partially means suffering?" And I had no idea. I was kind of surprised by this because in my mind, nostalgia is that moment where you breathe in some smell and it takes you back to like childhood or something like that. And there's this sense at which everything is just completely okay and wonderful, or you're just completely contented with that moment that you're in. And you sort of have this very fond recollection of these moments like this. But one thing that really encapsulates, I think, this Grand Trine energy is that Neptune, being in Pisces, can really long for things. And there can be almost kind of like a tragic romantic suffering here with this, with the moon in Scorpio and everything. So you get the sense that this might be a little bit more of that feeling that I'm sure most people have had, where it's like sometimes you're longing or pining for something and it almost hurts that you don't have it, or you have it a little bit, but you don't have it as much as you want. And there's this visceral pain inside your heart. This is a little bit like that transit, I think, especially with the moon in Scorpio. The theme song that I picked out is Clarity by John Mayer. And the reason for this is because if you listen to the lyrics of this song, it's really getting at some of the lessons of this Grand Trine, I think, where he says, I want to know if this will last forever. He's like, will this last forever? And of course, the answer comes back, no, it won't last forever, and it's not supposed to. For me, religiously, I hang the Christmas lights up, I enjoy them while they're there, and then I pull them down. I notice not everybody does that. And I can't blame them. It's really hard hanging these things up and taking them down. You got to get on ladders. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But the reason that I make myself go through that extra work is because I enjoy the moment so profoundly and I don't want to wear it out. And I think John Mayer was saying the same thing. This is a time where we want to enjoy the moment. We want to live in the moment and revel in this beauty, in the nostalgia or the love and the fantasy, as long as it's safe. But it's not meant to last, because if it did last, then you would be bored of it or take it for granted. The theme movie I chose was The Notebook, and this is going to be on the lighter side of the theme. But I'm sure if you've seen this movie, you will know exactly the essence of this transit that I'm getting at, because the whole movie is about this really powerful, deep, transcendental love that both people just really, really want, but there's kind of misfortune. It's difficult for it to work out for one reason or another. It never quite, just ends up being what either one of them wants. And so there's this very visceral heartache or longing or suffering that you probably would still choose to have if you could have nothing at all. But at the end of the day, it is suffering. Now, on the darker side, that more moon in Scorpio kind of vibe, you get almost like Interview with a Vampire, where there's this dark attraction to things that are macabre or devilish or a little bit edgy and mysterious and just dark, right? Along with this, you could almost get kind of like a Grimm Brothers fairy tale, where there's definitely the fairy tale part of it. There's the castle and the knight in shining armor on the horse or whatever, but there's also Rumpelstiltskin or whoever. There's also that darker element that's coming in, the witch, the very nightmarish blend into the fantasy, I think, is really a part of the essence of this grand trine. So how to work with this transit? Well, one thing that I would suggest, again, is that I think that with all of the energies, you have Mars in the sign of Leo that's really going to be just punching towards what it wants. You have a conjunction between Mercury and Uranus in Taurus that is going to be really apt to be excitable and want new, exciting things. And you get Venus in Cancer that is just really wanting love and pining for that comfort and nurturance. You get Neptune that has those really fantastical, idealistic longings for something beautiful and artistic and creative in Jupiter's sign. And then you get the moon in Scorpio. So you add all of these things together, and I think that the way to work with this essentially is to allow yourself to get swept up in the moment, because that is what ultimately I believe life is about. Life is about getting swept up in those really beautiful moments, but you just want to be careful that you don't take that moment for granted, or you don't take the people around you for granted, because that is when you move out of the magic of the transit that could lead you to deeper connection with those around you. So sometimes it's not what we don't have, it's what we have. And this transit, on the positive side of it, really might be able to reconnect us with those around us, with the people that we love, or the things that we already have. It's like we're able to almost see the magic within them. And then the darker side of this could be just really longing for that which you don't have. And it turns out almost like a nightmare instead of a fantasy. And before you know it, there's trouble that is coming about because of that. So I think that is kind of what the essence of this energy is like, and how you can maybe work with it. So I hope you have enjoyed this. Thanks so much for watching. On Wednesday, we're going to get into the energy of this Mercury conjunct Uranus in the sign of Taurus transit, and we'll be adding that into the mix of this grand trine a little bit. Both aspects are actually perfecting at the same time, but I didn't want to talk about that in here too much because it just would have been too much. So take it easy, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.